Now, as with most things in life, the key to your success is going to be in your preparation and your attention to detail. A good dose of the amber nectar is going to keep you going through the day. Well koozied. Now here you'll see I've got some colour-coded chopping boards. I use the brown for cooked product, the red for raw. 2 sets of tongs, one for cooked product, one for raw. Vinyl gloves, make sure I've got those on my hands during the rub process. And you'll see a fire blanket there. I prefer to use a fire blanket. Also got the garden hose there at the ready just in case there's any emergency. This is a fire starter. This comes in real handy. And the gun is a non-conductive thermostat. You'll get an idea of how that gets used later. This is the firebox. You're going to need to start this quite early in the morning with a 6 to 8 hour cooking process. Now you're often using hardwood, so it can be a little difficult to get started, hence the fire starter. I chuck a few pine cones in there as well. Now they've been picked up off the beach, so they've got a bit of salty character to them. Now this is a key point here, the drip trays. This is something that people will often forget. I'll put some pickling spice mix in the bottom there with just a little bit of water. This is a crucial step. Now these are going to be sitting in the bottom of the barbecue, and that's going to capture all the juices that come out of the meat, which of course in turn is going to be used in your barbecue sauce. Now don't fret about these oil drums I'm using here. I got a cocky to put this together for me. These drums were burnt out in a huge flame. Now here I've got the pork spare ribs, lamb ribs or lamb flaps. I've scoured those, and beef short ribs. These have been massaged with a dry rub, left to refrigerate for 24 hours. Really gets the flavour into the meat here. Using those gloves to listen to that sizzle. Symphony to your taste buds right there. I love using black iron. Now I love searing off the meat prior, if not just for the reason of hygiene. You're going to make sure that there's no chance of bacterial transference there from the butcher shop. You're searing that meat off like that. Love using that black iron. Now, another thing to keep in the back of your mind is the smoke that's going to be generated is going to be ringing the dinner bell, the dinner gong, for any flies in that area too. So you do attract quite a few flies in this process. I'd make sure you had some citronella candles handy too around the place. And your clothing. You don't want to be doing this in any clothing you have any regard for. Make sure you could even go to the extent of making sure you've got overalls on. That would be the ultimate. Now use all your grilling techniques while you're doing this. Pull the meat out of the refrigerator prior, bring it up towards room temperature. Another note on cooking on the bone is that the bone will often stay a lot cooler, so I like to make sure those bones are cooked up quite extensively too. I mean, that's why sometimes if you order a T-bone steak in a restaurant, the steak around the bone is raw. That can lead to some problems, but to alleviate that, just make sure you've cooked those bones up. Now that pan is going to get deglazed, and all that goodness is going to go into your barbecue sauce. By deglazing, I mean a bit of stock or beer is going to get poured in there. Now these are the wire racks that I use for holding the meat. Make sure they're clean, free of any of your last barbecue. Boiling hot soapy water. These are the pork spare ribs that are going to go out to the neighbours. Now that, I find that because it's quite a smoky process, you don't really want to annoy the shit out of your neighbours, so I like to go around anyone that's affected with a bit of the product. That seems to alleviate any tensions or anxiety they may have. Now this is a mop, what's regarded as a mop. This is essentially a liquor that's liquid that's going to baste the meat product through the process, keep it moist. And this is another step that's often overlooked. It's essential. Now this comes out as a black treacle. This has been cooked on the stove. Comes out as a black treacle. I've watered that down a little bit. You could still use it in its original black treacle state, but that's going to be way over the top. Now, in the old days, you used to be able to get a dish brush that was very reminiscent of a mop that you'd use for a kitchen floor. String dishcloth. I haven't seen those. The last time I saw anyone using one of those was my grandmother. So they haven't been around since Adam was a boy. So I'm forced to use a ladle there, and that's going to be basting the product all through the process. Every 1 or 1.5 hours, 1 to 2 hours. And that's our first look into the smoker. Look at those bad boys smoking away there. Doesn't that look good? You see how the drip trays work, capturing all that. So you've got a 6 to 8 hour process to get those done. Probably on this side is 6 hours, and then I like to finish them off in the oven. You can eat those tender. I prefer falling off the bone. Now this is the non-conductive thermometer. You see how I point this at any surface and it'll give you a reading. I keep that in Fahrenheit simply because most of the literature you're going to be reading is American and everything's going to be in Fahrenheit. You're going to want to keep that just initially after it had started, so that's going to come up to temperature quite well. You're going to want to keep that at between 200 and 250, 300 Fahrenheit, probably in the vicinity of just over 200 is fine. See, that's coming up quite well. It'll also let you know where all the blind spots are in your smoker. Just another point on that smoker, that has been seasoned, so that's been torched in a huge flame. Now these are the vegetables that are going in. There I've got sweet corn. I keep that on the husk, cooked in the husk. That's been soaked in water to make sure it doesn't burst into flames. The cabbage has been cored, taken the core out of that, and inserted a compound butter. Now you can go any which way but loose with the flavouring that you make that butter. That particular butter I've made there has got garlic and sage. I've got cauliflower there which didn't really pan out that well, it went quite dark. I was hoping to make a white puree out of it, so that was in the bag of no-nos, I guess. I'll never do that again. The star of the show is always going to be your kumara. Now I've parboiled that kumara till it's tender and put a bit of Chinese spice, 5 spice over it. That is the star of the show. That cabbage too, you can see how that's, look at those bad boys, they're looking good there right now. Still got, that's probably about an hour from being pulled. You put the vegetable, I put the vegetables in the final 3 hours. They're not going to take nearly as long. That cabbage I'll pull apart and I'll saute that up. Now in the Billionaires Club I'd be using some foie gras butter with a bit of pancetta, or probably even just a prosciutto crisp on it. There, guys, keep it in your pants, mates. Those boys are looking good. I'll still put those in the oven for an hour or two, or a crock pot with a bit of that juice in the bottom of it for a couple of hours, just to get it to the point where it's falling off the bone. And that's how I prefer my barbecue. I mean, you can eat it like that, it's quite tender, but I find it a little bit too tough, on the tough side. And that's it, guys. Happy barbecuing. Feed that puku. Just another point to mention is the fact that you cannot keep leftovers of this product. It cannot be used after you've smoked it. It needs to be eaten and consumed on the day. Do not be tempted in keeping any leftovers. The whole process just does not work. Happy barbecuing.